Kochie's Business Builders is proudly brought to you by our partners Peugeot and APCO, who are helping small businesses grow.
On Kochie's Business Builders, learn from two great entrepreneurs how to build a business through word of mouth, and then we help them with a blueprint to expand overseas. Plus, a business that bloomed during COVID and the rules for going into business with friends. Welcome back to another episode of Kochie's Business Builders. Now, I've always said a good night's sleep is the secret to success. Well, Hollywood superstars Matt Damon and Chris Hemsworth obviously agree, as they're big fans of this Aussie luxury linen brand, which has built a great business locally through word of mouth. But now they want to launch overseas, and our experts are here to help. Georgie Kavanagh and Carlotta Cassell started their French linen and homewares business, Carlotta & G, in late 2018 as a side hustle, finding time before and after work and on the weekends to develop the sustainable brand. Nick Brogden joins them to unpack the recipe for their success so far.
Georgie, you're in the business of sleep. You run a really successful French linen business. How did all this happen?
We are in the business of sleep. In the morning, you have a coffee. At night, you have a good night's sleep. And it really just started as a side hustle and a bit of a conversation. Fast forward a few months, we started just telling our friends, and before we even had a website, we had about 50 to 100 pre-orders. We were working full-time, and then on the weekends, we would do the Paddington market. And come Monday morning, we were back at our desk working for someone else.
Right.
Now, we then resigned just before COVID hit, which was a very scary time.
Yeah, right. But at that time, though, e-com had a big spike, right? So it would have been scary, but you probably got to take advantage of the e-com spike through COVID?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because we are in homewares, everyone was at home, as we know, and just wanting those smaller touches to make you feel still special while we're all stuck at home. Right from the start, though, our local community supported us.
Having a good local community to help out when you're first starting is really important, because that's where your roots are. That was a really smart way to get started. What was the next step?
Our socials are something that we've pride ourselves on, and it really doesn't happen overnight, as you would know. We've had some great local support from our customers and from different businesses that have continued supporting us right from the start.
It's a clever way to do it, because if you involve the community that you're working within, and if you can get them to take part in what you're doing and then credit them for what they've done, then they're going to also promote it, right? So you get additional exposure from including those people. So you've absolutely nailed what you've been doing so far. You've set up your socials really well. You've managed to collect a fantastic email database. What were the challenges? Did you run into any major problems along the way?
A couple of the problems along the way, and they're good problems to have, when we had Matt Damon buy our linen, and he's still buying our linen today. But he put in an order, and it was a big order, and this is where we first realised that, wow, we have to have enough stock now for people to be able to buy the product. And so that's been a big challenge, inventory management and keeping up with that.
Right, and do you have any tips on how did you overcome the problem?
Just learning all around Shopify, and still we haven't nailed it. It's still a learning process.
If you can really, Shopify especially is really great for inventory management. And if you set it, it's sort of a hassle to get it set up correctly, but if you really rely on the data of what you're selling and the timeframes, then it gives you you can sort of really work out what you need to buy and what sort of stock levels you need to hold, right? Now, a year ago, being everything that's happened with COVID and, leaving your role to go full time, would you do it again?
I pinch myself every day now to think that, I get to talk about sleep for a living. And I really encourage a lot of friends that ask me, just do it. Just make that commitment, and then it will lead to the bigger picture.
If you've ever thought about diversifying your product range or expanding overseas, stay tuned as expert Nick Brogden shares his advice with Carlotta and G. Plus, you don't want to miss Sabri Subri's tech tips to optimise your performance at work.
What's next? What's on the cards?
We just looked at, what our customers do from a day-to-day perspective. So obviously they sleep, but the other thing they do is obviously eat. Everyone's at home.
Right.
You can't go out and have beautiful meals.
Yeah.
So that's where a new product range established, being tableware. That has just grown a lot. So with napkins, placemats and tablecloths.
Yeah, that's really smart doing that, because the people, that's exactly right. So the people that are buying your products for the bed sheets and the linens, they're obviously going to be the type of people that would also like to have nice things all around the house, right? They're not just going to have one location. And basically you can use a very similar product supply chain, or maybe probably the exact same supply chain.
We did start off really small, and so we started talking to some of our loyal customers, and they said, no, definitely give it a go. And this is something we've realised that it has done well, and so we are going to expand on that.
That was a really, really smart move. And also by starting out, by selling to your existing customer base is the best way to do that. Because as you said, you could do small tests with people that would give you really honest feedback and that were obviously your target demographic. And then, you can scale out to pretty much target the same audience with all the products. So that was a really, really good move.
Well, last year was a big year for us. We grew 260%. So now it's just about keeping that momentum and continuing to scale.
Yeah, right. That's an interesting point you said there, is continuing that momentum. It is often a challenge for a lot of businesses that I'm working with as well, because the next level is often a little bit more difficult, and that's when more advanced marketing tactics and business structure comes into play. Have you built a team around yourself to cover off those bases?
One thing we've always talked about is creating a good stable of people around us. So, Carlotta and I can continue just focusing on why we started the business. So we've got, great accountants, we've got staff now, we've got a great solid warehouse.
Yeah.
We are also looking to expand overseas as well.
Expanding overseas is always obviously good with a business that clearly is a global opportunity. How would you go about, because obviously different countries have different mindsets on what they would buy. So do you have to now recreate your marketing strategy?
I suppose it is back to square one, and looking at, how we did well in Australia and how we can then use those learnings in Europe.
Europe's obviously a big market, but the problems that come with Europe is there's a lot of different languages. Are you also targeting America, where you could probably transition what you've built already much easier to an American audience?
Yeah, the States are something we definitely have our hearts set on expanding to. We had Matt Damon buy our sheets.
Right.
I think he's a pretty good first customer to have, and I'm sure he'll help spread the word as well.
Well, from speaking to you, it's no doubt at all that you're going to have great success. I mean, you've diversified your product range, you've built a really strong team around you, you've built a community following. There's a lot people can learn from the way that you built your business.
Thanks, Nick.
It's Sabri Subi here, the founder and head of growth at King Kong, Australia's #1 fastest growing digital marketing agency. And I'm here today with my 3 top tech tips. And tip number 1 is to make sure that you have a spec'd up computer. I'm talking about top of the range in the category that you operate in. I have found that small delays on the inputs and on your computer really create a big lag on how much that you can actually get done day to day. Tip number 2 is a Chrome plugin called Loom. And what Loom allows you to do is record your screen and also audio. So instead of having a long drawn-out meeting, you can sit down and just make a short Loom video that will get your point across in a much more efficient manner. Tip number 3 is to really have somebody like a data scientist come into your business and establish what are the kind of key metrics that you rely on to operate your business, and to set up a couple of key metrics on some dashboards that you can monitor that will really tell you the health of your business.
Fantastic advice there from Sabri and Nick. If you want to learn even more from Nick Brogden, sign up for our Business Booster online course, a free course to help you supercharge your sales and marketing. Sign up on kochiesbusinessbuilders.com.au. Need to supercharge your sales and marketing? Then go no further. The Kochie's Business Booster online course is here to help. In partnership with Monday.com, it'll give you a clearer understanding about how to market your products and services, increase sales, and ultimately drive growth. So, what are you waiting for? Simply sign up for free today. Well, now it's time to see what drives this week's entrepreneur in the spotlight.
Hi, I'm James Wall, one of the owners here at Garden World in Braeside, Victoria. It's a bit like a mall here. We've got 5 different businesses all working together, providing different products. And we sell all things horticultural: plants, seeds, potting mix, pots, you name it, and we've probably got it. Probably what I'm most proud about in running a nursery is finding and supplying plants for people who want those particular plants, who get lots of joy and go home and put it in their own gardens. It really is a great industry to work in. We've got some great relationships with our local customers, and a lot of them come in weekly, bring in plant samples, plonk them down on the counter. I feel like I'm a doctor sometimes trying to tell them what is wrong with their plants, and they keep coming back, and we love having them. Look, I guess the change in the business from when I first started here 13 years ago, it's definitely been online. The effort that goes into photographing a plant to put on Instagram, or pleasing people on Facebook, telling them about events that are on, and really utilising that space a lot more than we were in the past. COVID was a difficult time for everyone, and for us there was initially a lot of business because it was only ourselves and hardware stores that were allowed to open. And of course we had to shift our business from a retail to a click and collect business and a delivery business. So it was a massive change for us, because the thing with plants and potting mix, courier companies don't really want to know about us. We're fiddly, we're heavy, we're odd shapes, plants tip over, dirt comes out. We had to do it ourselves. We realised we were going to be doing a lot of little deliveries and lots of them. So we tried to find a vehicle that would suit, and the Peugeot, who I was always a bit of a fan of, stood out to me as fitting into what we needed. It was a pleasure, and still is a pleasure to drive. It's a very quiet engine, very fuel efficient, and of course it had the barn doors, which anyone with a nursery needs the barn doors just to slip the odd little pellet inside. And I guess we even had to think about how we pick the orders, because we're not a warehouse with a pick path. So we're crisscrossing throughout the nursery trying to find different products. So it wasn't super efficient, but it was our only means of getting a sale, so we had to do it. External challenges for our business would be price pressure from chains, would be backyarders, selling direct at markets and other places that really don't have the same costs as us. So for us, trying to maintain our service and quality of plants is very important to differentiate us from these competitors. Post-COVID, we've definitely seen the opportunity online, and we're now trying to market ourselves more in that direction. And one of the areas is probably the heavy items, like potting mixes. Some people just don't want to go and get 4 or 5 bags of potting mixes. They'd now like it dropped to their door. Their expectations have changed.
I'm Janelle Lawrence, Head of PR for Clear Haze Consulting. We're a boutique agency located here in Sydney working with global clients. Every business has a story. Here's how to find yours. Is it interesting? Sometimes the things that you find interesting within your business are not the things that other people will connect with. Think about your audience. Who are you trying to talk to and what will they take away from this? When you've found your story, you need to make sure you communicate it clearly. Your messaging needs to be concise, stay on brand, be relevant, not robotic, and be human. You want to make sure that you relate to people and you're likable. PR can be invaluable to any business in order to get their messaging and products out to a wider audience. I hope these tips help you find your story.
Never underestimate the power of good PR. After the break, we talk about the cost of employee burnout and look at how to mix business with pleasure. Welcome back to Kochie's Business Builders. Now, recent news suggests that an improved economy might be bad news for businesses with burnt-out employees. Danny Lessam, Chief Executive of Elmo Software, joins me to discuss these findings. Danny, this has been a fascinating survey by Elmo because it found 51% of staff were looking to change jobs once the economy improves. So what's spurring them to do that?
Well, we saw about a third of respondents are suffering from burnout as a consequence of remote-based working. Some people are actually working longer hours, and over 20% are feeling overwhelmed by their work. It is a changing workplace, and people are looking for, I suppose, a better work environment. Also, with the improving economy, they feel that they can do better in the job market.
Are you seeing strains in the job market at the moment?
Definitely, where in certain sectors where they're skilled employees, because of the, I suppose, the lack of skilled migration, there is pressure on salaries at the moment, and people are looking to take advantage of that, is make sure that they're in market, yeah.
How do you keep employees happy in this new environment, particularly when they're working remotely?
There are probably three ways of doing it, and not to oversimplify, but one is consult. Firstly, get feedback from workers, see what's working for them and see what's not working. And each business needs to be flexible in terms of how they handle the new way of working. Secondly, investment in technology to automate processes and reduce workloads. And then thirdly, off the back of automation and consultation, is improving the work environment, perhaps investing in ergonomics when they're working remotely, and also improving the environment back in the office or the premises.
And that's really interesting because for some businesses, remote working just doesn't work, does it? You find yourself going broke. So focus on improving the workplace to really encourage people to come back and make them happy at work again.
People have different expectations to pre-COVID. So you've got to consult and you've got to listen. And if you've got a happy workforce, you're going to get more productivity and you're going to do better as a business.
Yep, great tips. Danny, fascinating survey, as I said, and we've all got to focus on it. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
A pleasure. Thank you.
This week on Ask Kochie, is going into business with a friend a marriage made in heaven or hell? Rachel and Claire from Wattle and Rose Elopements have this question.
Hey Kochie, I'm Claire and this is Rachel, and together we are Wattle and Rose Elopements.
So I'm a celebrant and Claire is a photographer, and over the COVID period we've worked together heaps and heaps before that, but we did notice that people were really digging the smaller, more elopement style ceremonies. And we thought we would turn that into a business together. So we are hoping to make this amazing concept flourish. It's already had a lot of interest, but we're also really good friends. We drink wine together a lot and we want to maintain that.
So Kochie, what advice would you give people who are working with their family and friends to take on board to maintain that relationship?
Oh, gee, it is tough. To help weigh in on this, we're joined by Simon Cohen, co-founder of the largest property buyers agency in Australia, Cohen Handler. who has been through this situation himself. Simon, you didn't just go into business with a friend, but also your mum. So as a friend and a relative. What advice would you give Rachel and Claire?
Rachel, I think if I had to give you 3 top tips, number 1 would be set boundaries. I think it's really important to distinguish between family and business. 2, I think communicate. Communication's very important. And 3, make sure your team and your staff know the difference between when it's family time and it's business time, because it's very important for them to be able to see the separation.
Right. So if disputes do arise, how do you maintain that professionalism and not let friendship get in the way or emotion?
Absolutely. Emotion, unfortunately, is something that takes over all of us. But what I find more often than not is if you sit down, you communicate, you talk things through, you understand each other's perspectives, typically because you are family or friends, you can get through it 99% of the time.
Simon, great advice. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, thank you.
Well, that's it for today. Make sure you head to the website kochiesbusinessbuilders.com.au and sign up for the weekly newsletter, which has all sorts of great information and resources for running a successful business. We'll be back next week with another episode full of great stories and advice. See you then.